Thank all of you for coming. We've just replicated what Martin Luther King Jr. did in March 23rd, 1965, when he left 105 in Superior and came down to Corey Methodist Church and came over to Great Abyssinia Church. So thank you for replicating such a historic occasion when Martin came to this town to aid and assist us in becoming the kind of city that he called the beloved community. We shall begin now by having the Reverend Dr. James Robertson, the pastor of Corey United Methodist Church, to give us greetings. Doctor.
Greetings, I'm James Robertson, and I bring you greetings from Corey United Methodist Church, where I serve as pastor. It was noted by the historian that in terms of that Martin Luther King Jr. journeyed many times to Cleveland, Ohio, and spoke in the pulpit of Corey United Methodist Church on several occasions, and perhaps the most memorable one being 1963, the first time when it was scheduled for about 3,000 people to gather at Corey United Methodist Church, and over 15,000 people showed up. And so today we've been kind of following the pattern where it was originally scheduled at Corey, and the overflow, some of the overflow, came here to Great Abyssinia Baptist Church. This is some history, so I'll share just some brief history. It's recorded in the pages of the Called Post on that particular day. It says, like a modern King of Kings, like a Messiah, came Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. After the multitudes had come and waited for hours, they waited at Corey Methodist Church. Before the 20th century Moses delivered his address, the thousands of persons who spilled into the aisles and overflowed into East 105th Street were asked to go to Great Abyssinia Baptist Church, St. Mark's Presbyterian, and Greater Friendship Church to be accommodated. The team of Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, and Y.T. Walker addressed the capacity crowd at each church. The same hypnotic spell was cast by Dr. King at each of these churches, where he repeated the same message. And he lifted his voice and spoke softly as a hush gathered over his audiences. There is a saying, if walls could talk, if the walls of Corey United Methodist Church and Greater Abyssinia Baptist Church could talk, if they could speak, I want to suggest that if you listen, even as we proceed through this evening's occasion, if you listen, that at times you might even hear the soft echoes of the words spoken by Reverend King. You might hear those words ring or reverberate from the walls, that because he once tarried here, these walls and these spaces have become hallowed spaces, even sacred spaces, where he once lifted his voice at Corey and Great Abyssinia. Listen closely, and you will hear soft echoes. His voice speaking in every nonviolent march, in every voice that yet cries for freedom. There are echoes of Martin's voice resounding as we remember even tonight and celebrate his legacy here in Cleveland and other places. Finally, I'm reminded, as I greet you this evening, I'm reminded that one of the newspapers, it was noted that Dr. King made a plea for the support of the movement in the South. But there was also another call that he issued. And his issue, and this call was to step up and step out in whatever place you might reside. He spoke particularly to people in Cleveland and said that it was time for them to step up and step out against racial injustice in this city. In 1967, when he last came to Cleveland, the focus was on the poor within this city. His voice yet echoes, step up, step out where you are. His voice echoes, step up, step out for justice. His voice echoes, step up, step out wherever the poor and disenfranchised may dwell. Step up, step out, make a positive difference where you are. Can you hear the echoes? Can you hear the echoes? I greet you in the spirit and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as we gather in this sacred space on this evening.
Now at this time, Elder Jacqueline Goodrum is going to lead us in prayer.
May we all stand, those who are able to, as we give honor to God. Eternal God of our light and our salvation, we ask that you engulf us with the spirit of your divine presence. Help us to sustain perfect health in our minds and bodies so that we may qualify to stay in the land of the living and proclaim your good and perfect work. Set our feet, Lord, to go on the path where you say go. Bless our hands to create ideas that you give to us. Empower us with wisdom and understanding that we may speak the truth to those that are in the dark. Help us keep our ears open to hear your voice. Give us extra tunnel vision to see clearly ahead, Lord God. Help us, Lord God. Give us daily strength as we walk with you. We stand here today, Lord, and we bless the spirit of all those that have gone before us, that honored you and kept your commandments. God, we ask that you give us the unwavering assurance and faith that our foreparents had. God, we ask that you lift us up and make us a bold and strong soldier that we may be drafted into the army of your kingdom building. We thank you, God, for life. We thank you for the divine protection of our bloodline. We thank you for your grace and mercy. But God, we thank you for loving us. We thank you for this day, for such a time as this. 50 years ago, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Lord God, was assassinated because he wanted to fight for freedom, justice, and equality. And even though we've made some challenges, so we've made some progress, but we still have some challenges. And right now, Lord, the land right now is in a turmoil. There's bigotry and racism is trying to turn her ugly head to go back that way, but we're not going backwards, we're going forward. So we ask that you empower us, Lord, give us the strength and the tenacity that you gave our foreparents so that we may stand on the shoulders of them and carry them out into the new generation, the new century, Lord God, that we may continue to do the work that's set so before us, because you said, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and I will heal the land. And we need our land to be healed right now, Lord God. So we ask that you move all cowards out the way, because we don't have time for cowards. We have time for people that's strong, stand on the front line, girls and boys, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, aunts and uncles, everybody, black, white, Jews, Gentiles, Italians, everybody, Lord. It's going to take everybody to bring this world back to peace as we once was established in the beginning of time. And we want to say thank you for everything, and thank you for letting us be alive in the land of living right now for such a time as this to continue to go on. Amen, amen, and amen.
Lift every voice and sing, Brother William Clarence Marshall. The Lord gives us a century, the talents of this distinguished young man, William Clarence Marshall.
Good afternoon. If you know the words, and I hope you do, please sing along. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Thank you.
Northern Ohio, in fact, the total state of Ohio, is blessed to have a great congresswoman who has done such a masterful job in Washington, D.C., and in fact, all over this country. So if you put your hands together and bless our Congresswoman Marshall first. Come on, come on, do better than that. This lady represents us in every kind of way. Distinguished and really.
Good evening. Good evening. Reverend Cavitt, my good friend, thank you. All of the clergy here today, all the honorees, mayor, judges, all the elected officials, everyone here assembled, thank you so much for being here today. 50 years ago today, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated as he stood on a balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. He was in Memphis to support striking sanitation workers. And today, the world remembers this day as the day Dr. King was silenced. But his voice remains loud and resolute. His legacy lives on. In his final sermon, Dr. King said, "I've been to the mountaintop." He went on to say, something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up. And wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same. We want to be free. 50 years later, these cries remain unanswered. There has been some advancement, of course. We are no longer in Jim Crow. We have elected and witnessed the election of our first black president, yet the cry to be free continues. Here in Northeast Ohio, people are crying out for freedom, freedom from poverty, freedom from hunger, freedom from economic oppression, freedom from unequal access to education. We want the unfettered freedom to vote in every election without voter suppression or intimidation. And as we reflect on Dr. King's life and legacy, we still have much work to do. We must continue to be drum majors for justice, and we must vote. This was the dream of Dr. King. He may have died 50 years ago, but his dream lives in all of us. God bless. Thank you.
Ms. Merrill Johnson, would you please come forward? Come right on. Yes, ma'am. Come right up here. That's all. You can do it down there if you choose. Let's get that mic so we can hear you.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Fight for freedom. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for freedom. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not. We shall not. We shall not be moved. We shall not. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for justice. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for justice. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Black and white together. Black and white together. We shall not be moved. Black and white together. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. One more time. We shall not. We shall not. We shall not be moved. We shall not. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
All right, thank you. Brother Preston Pickett will please come forward. That's what Dr. King would do.
I'm delighted to see each of you here tonight in spite of a storm warning. You reveal that you are determined to go on anyhow. Something is happening in Memphis. Something is happening in our world. And you know, if I was standing at the beginning of time with the possibility of taking a kind of general and panoramic view of the whole of human history up to now. And the Almighty said to me, Martin Luther King, which age would you like to live in? Strangely enough, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you allow me to live in just a few years in the second half of the 20th century, I will be happy. Now that's a strange statement to make because the world is all messed up. The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land, confusion all around. That's a strange statement. But I know that somehow, that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I see God moving in this period of history in a way that men in some strange way are responding. Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up, and wherever they are assembled today, whether they're in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same. We want to be free. And I'm happy that God has allowed me to be in Memphis. I can remember a time when Negroes were once going around, as Ralph has said, so often scratching where they didn't itch and laughing when they were not tickled. Well, that day is all over. We mean business now, and we are determined to gain our rightful place in God's world. And that's all this whole thing is about. We aren't engaged in any negative protests or any negative arguments with anybody. We are saying we are determined to be men. We are determined to be people. We are saying we are God's children. And if we are God's children, we don't have to live like we are forced to live. Now, what does all of this mean in this great period of history? It means that we've got to stay together. We've got to stay together and maintain unity. You know, when Pharaoh wanted to prolong the period of slavery in Egypt, he had a favorite formula for doing it. What was that? He kept the slaves fighting amongst themselves. But whenever the slaves get together, something happens in Pharaoh's court that he cannot hold the slaves in slavery. When the slaves get together, that's the beginning of getting out of slavery. Now let us maintain unity. Another thing we ought to do is this: always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. Now, we're a poor people. Individually, we are poor. When you compare us with white society in America, we're poor. But never stop and forget that collectively, that means all of us together, collectively, the Negro is richer than most nations of the world. We have an annual income of more than $30 billion a year.
which is more than the exports of the United States and more than the national budget of Canada. That's power right there if we know how to pool it. We don't have to curse and go around acting bad with our words. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go to these stores and to these massive industries in our country and say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. And we've come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you are not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And that agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. Now let me say as I move to my conclusion, we've got to give ourselves to this struggle until the end. Nothing would be more tragic than to stop at this point in Memphis. Nothing would be more tragic than to stop at this point in Cleveland. So when we have our march, you need to be there. If it means leaving work, if it means leaving school, be there. Be concerned about your brother. You may not be on strike, but either we go up together or we go down together. No, several years ago, I was in New York City autographing the first book that I had written. And while sitting down writing, a demented black woman came up. The only question I heard from her was, "Are you Martin Luther King?" And I was looking down writing and I said yes. Next minute I felt something beating on my chest, and before I knew it, I had been stabbed by this demented woman. It came out in the New York Times the next morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. And from all over the country, kind letters came in. There's one letter. I'll never forget it. It came from a young girl, a young white girl who was a student at the White Plains High School. It said simply, "Dear Dr. King, I am a 9th grade student at the White Plains High School." It said, while it should not matter, I'd like to mention that I am a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune, and I read of your suffering, and I read that if you had merely sneezed, you would have died. Well, I'm simply writing you this letter to say to you that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze. And I too am happy that I didn't sneeze. Because if I had sneezed, I would have been around in 1963 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and ended segregation and interstate travel. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance to see black people
of Albany, Georgia, decide to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance later a year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had if I sneezed. And then we got into Memphis. And some began to talk about the threats that were out, about what would happen to me by some of our sick white brothers. Well, I don't know what'll happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but I'm not concerned about that now. Like anybody, I'd like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Be my last time here. This may be my last time. Maybe my last time, but I don't know. Oh Lord, this may be my last time. This may you know this just might be the last time we're all together. Maybe my last time, but I don't know. You know this may be the last time we must together. Maybe my last time, but I don't know. Oh Lord, this may be my last time. This may be my last time here. This may be my last time. Maybe my last time, but I don't know. You see, this may be the last time we sing together. Maybe my last time, but I don't know. You know this may be the last time we see together. Maybe my last time, but I don't know. Oh Lord, this may be my last time. Oh Lord, this may be my last time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm only going to talk to you just for a minute or so this evening because I have some very sad news for all of you. Could you lower those campaign signs, please? I have some very sad news for all of you, and I think sad news for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world, and that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis, Tennessee. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings. He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in. For those of you who are black, considering the evidence evidently is that there were white people who were responsible, you can be filled with bitterness and with hatred and a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country. And greater polarization, black people amongst blacks, white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that has spread across our land with an effort to understand compassion and love. For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times. My favorite poet was Aeschylus, and he once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until, in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, and the feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black. So I ask you tonight to return home, to say a prayer for the family of Martin Luther King. Yeah, it's true. But more importantly, to say a prayer for our own country, which all of us love, a prayer for understanding and that compassion which I spoke. We can do well in this country. We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past. We will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness. It's not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land. Let us dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Thank you very much.
At this time, Ms. Mary Rose Lokar will please come forward, Ms. Tracy Jones, and Ms. Marcia McCoy. Congressman Marshall Fudge, I want you up here.
We're going to do our award presentations.
Thank you, Reverend. gonna give you all.
They say, be ye also ready. I'd like to call forward Tim Roberts, who is receiving the Humanitarian for Students Award.
I'm sorry, Mary. Yes, you're the one who's doing it. You're the one who's doing it. My apologies.
Hold on. Tim, hold on, don't leave me. Stay where you are. Let me first call the representative for Reverend Dr. Joan Campbell, her daughter and former mayor, Jane Campbell. She is receiving the Behind the Scenes Humanitarian Award. Here, let me give you this. Here's the picture.
We'll get it together.
We're practicing.
Congresswoman Fudge, Mayor Jackson, distinguished clergy, my mama asked me to come on her behalf. I'm not here for me. 50 years ago, more than that, she was a 31-year-old white lady volunteering through the church. And she invited Martin Luther King to come to our church. And it changed her life, and it changed my life. And all she would want you all to know is that she never gave up the fight. She would never let us give up the fight. And on behalf of my mom and in memory of Dr. King, let us carry on.
Your mother received down at Christ Christian Church, and she's married to the man who was the pastor there. Come on, tell me.
So my mom is at this meeting. Probably Dr. Cavness is there. They're up above Abood's Foods. Now, you have to be really old to know about Abood's Foods, but up there they were doing voter registration for Carl Stokes. So Martin Luther King had been to the town many times, and so he says, I've been to every black church in Cleveland. I've never been invited to a white church. So my mom raises her hand and says, oh, come to our church. And then comes back and says to the minister, guess who I've invited? He was on vacation. He chose to stay on vacation. The church actually split over the issue. And some of the fancy people walked out, but the church was stronger for that. The minister came back. He did not lose his job. And we've been friends forever. And last August, a few years after he lost his wife, my mother and he got married.
We're moving along here, but I think probably maybe this is a good time to just say thank you to Marcia McCoy for putting this program together. I think it's great. Thank you. Tracy Jones, please join me, who is receiving the National Action Network Humanitarian Healthcare Justice Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This has been, and I'll never have what I'm supposed to have. Shame on me.
amazing year for us. And the relationship that has formed between the AIDS Healthcare Foundation and Greater Abyssinia and NAN has been truly amazing. I'm so grateful to both Marcia McCoy and Reverend Cavanis, because it's one thing to say that people support you, and there are many of you in this room that have supported me throughout my time growing and progressing, including Councilwoman and the Mayor, and a number of you in this room. But Marcia told me I could have a couple minutes because sometimes it's really important, she said a couple, to make sure that we remind folks that we have to put our action, put forward our power into action. So I just wanted to take a second, and I won't be long, I promise. All forms of discrimination and inequalities, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhumane. Massive direct action is needed to raise the consciousness of a nation to the segregated and inferior medical care received by Negroes. These are the words of Martin Luther King Jr. He made these statements in Chicago in 1966. Today, very little has changed. Currently, African American adults are more likely to report they cannot see a doctor because of the cost. African Americans between the ages of 18 and 49 are 2 times likely to die from heart disease than their white counterparts. African Americans aged 35 to 64 are 50% more likely to have high blood pressure than whites. And our HIV rates are through the roof. I say these things today because we are under attack from our current administration as it relates to our health care. We want to make sure that people understand that in a little while, diabetes is going to be the killer of us all, especially in the African American community. We have got to do something about this issue. And one of the ways that you can put your action forward is to help us right now. There's a program that some of our Congress people have chosen to go after. It's called the 340B program, and it's been in effect for 25 years. This program supports safety net hospitals. And I don't have to tell a single one of y'all in this room how important it is to have our safety net hospitals, because that's where we go in times of trouble. And we know if we don't put our action forward, we lose our hospitals. Hello, church. So I say to you today, there will be a bag outside of your dinner table. Make sure that you look in it and put your action forward and help us to make sure that Congress doesn't eliminate a program that makes sure that the people that are most in need get those services. Thank you, and thank you for allowing me this moment.
I want to thank Robert Kennedy. Thank you so much for your words earlier today. The next award goes to Prester Pickett, the best MLK impersonator of all, for the behind-the-scenes humanitarian award. Come on, Reverend.
To God be the glory. There's an opportunity for us to celebrate Cleveland in a particular way because God has blessed this city. However, there are still so many problems that our people are facing. I am blessed with a family, my core family, with my wife and my sons. If you would stand and be acknowledged. Bertha, Prester, and Richard. To our wonderful Congresswoman, Marcia Fudge, to the distinct Mayor Frank Jackson, as well as so many other leaders who are here. I bring you greetings from Cleveland State University, the Black Studies Program, Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center. And we'll share with you, we just had, and I'm out of my voice because we just had a program with some very young people. And I do appreciate our seasoned family members who are here.
However, there's a next generation that knows nothing about what Reverend Cavanis and Marcia McCoy and the National Action Network and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference is doing to extend this legacy to a next generation. The answer is there. I'm off tomorrow morning to Houston, Texas to try to take some of this edutainment that Cleveland has helped me develop into the South again and intend to bring back some good news, as God is good, and Jesus Christ represents that in my life. God bless you.
Silence your phones, okay? Everybody take out your phone. Put it on vibrate. Thank you. Next award goes to Dr. Janice Marshall for the Academic and Collegiate Humanitarian Award.
First of all, let me bring you greetings on behalf of our president at Cuyahoga Community College, Dr. Alex Johnson, and our board chair, Mr. Victor Ruiz. It certainly is a humbled honor for me to receive this award. It really is my great pleasure to stand in the gap for the scholars across Northeast Ohio to make sure that we eliminate and reduce that barrier to access to higher education. We serve scholars as early as 3 years of age, their entire families, really standing in the gap to help them to know what they can be through higher education. So thank you so much, Marcia, Congresswoman Fudge, Reverend Cavanis, and also to the other honorees tonight. I humbly accept this award. Thank you.
My favorite police chief, Calvin Williams. Who is receiving the Law Enforcement Excellence Award.
One of your best appointments, Mayor.
Yeah.
One of your best appointments, brother.
Hello. How's everybody doing? I'm going to be real brief. First of all, I want to thank Reverend Cavanis. You know, this is like my second home here at Great Abyssinia. Spend a lot of time here, see a lot of familiar faces. I definitely have to thank my boss, Mayor Jackson, for giving me an opportunity 4 years ago to humbly serve as your chief. And without the mayor being here, I don't think I'd be standing here. So I definitely thank the mayor. Congresswoman, thank you for your support over the years also. And you know, the people in the city of Cleveland have a great way of kind of showing us how great a job we're doing or not. And it's at times like these when we appreciate you showing us that we're on the right track, although we definitely have a lot of work to do. So I appreciate this. I accept this on behalf of the men and women of our division of police that work hard day in and day out to serve you. So thank you.
This is an organization I'm quite familiar with. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the Humanitarian Sorority for Justice Award. All the sorors, come up and get this picture real quick.
Thank you. I am humbled to accept this award on behalf of the Greater Cleveland Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am Dr. Nicole Y. Richardson, President, and we have over 550 members in our chapter and more than 2,000 in the greater Cleveland community. We've been here since 1924, so we know all about civil rights and social action. So I just want to thank you, and of course to Congresswoman Fudge, our 21st National President, who has really helped us and steered us in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Look this way, everybody. Look this way. Thank you. And for my last presentation today, the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity receiving the Humanitarian Fraternity for Justice Award. I'm gonna leave it to you.
Okay. All right, first off, I want to acknowledge my brothers, Delta Alpha Lambda chapter. The last time I spoke in front of a crowd, I left them out and they hung me out to dry. But I want to thank the National Action Network for giving us this award. When I first got notified that we were going to be receiving an award, the first thing came to my mind, I said, oh, okay, because Martin Luther King is an alpha. I said, okay, I can go with that. But after I started thinking about this past year, that some of the things that we've done. Now, we've worked with some of the organizations here, the ladies at Delta Sigma Theta, we've done some things, and the AIDS Health Foundation, we've done some things. So I said, you know, this is why we're being given this award. So thank you very much to everyone, and we really appreciate this.
All right.
Ain't got nobody to take it, man.
I got you.
Well, it's an honor to be here and one of the co-chairs. I do have to say just a couple things before we start with awards. Reverend Cavanis, and Mayor, you'll appreciate this. My first day in City Council, Reverend Cavanis was a council person, and he was the first person to greet me and welcome me, and I was really nervous, and you took it away from me. Thank you. And just one other quick story. Coretta Scott King was very anxious to have the statue of Dr. Martin Luther King in the U.S. Capitol. And my chairman did not want to have the the hearings on it, so I was a subcommittee chair. And Congresswoman, you will appreciate this, because you go through this probably in some ways with the president every day. So he asked me to chair it because he couldn't chair it, and I was happy to do it. And the reason is that there was no black person as one of the statues, you know, in Statuary Hall at the U.S. Capitol. And we did finally get it passed, and Coretta Scott King was very, very grateful. And I was honored to chair the committee to push it through. And it did take us 5 years to get Dr. King's holiday as a national holiday. Congresswoman Fudge, it's probably going to take you a lot longer to transform this president. But anyway, that's it. I won't say anything else except thank you, Marcia and the Reverend, for this honor. God bless you. Well, I have the pleasure of indicating that the National Action Network Greater Cleveland Chapter Humanitarian and Leadership for Justice Award salutes the Honorable Mayor Fletcher Berger in the spirit of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, outstanding commitment, service to the community, forwarding man. Pleased to represent each other. I break a lot of cameras.
You almost got the deal with you, Frank. Not quite. Not quite.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. I am so grateful that the Almighty has put me in a position to where I'm able to do some good for somebody. And I so much appreciate that someone here on earth would think enough of what I am doing that they would grant me this. And so I just want to say thank you very much, and God bless us all.
Well, it's an honor for me to salute the next person who's going to get an award, and that's the mayor of our city, Mayor Frank Jackson. He's going to get the Humanitarian Award in the spirit of Dr. King and man.
Join that like good work?
Yeah, he's a member. Our member.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Gosh.
Hey, let me get in this one.
The old council people.
All right.
God bless you.
Councilman Owens.
Yes, yes.
Come on, give the mayor a big hand.
Good evening. You know, I want to thank you for the recognition and really congratulate everyone else who's been recognized tonight. You know, I often remind myself that I'm mayor not because I'm so smart or even that I deserve to be. I'm mayor because of the sacrifice and the things that other people have done so that someone like me can be mayor. And I've always appreciated that, and I believe that I owe. And when I serve as mayor, I do that with understanding that I have that debt to pay. So thank you very much.
Okay. Well, the next award, the National Action Network gives this award and says it's because the behind-the-scenes champion for Justice Award honors and salutes Frederick Harris in the spirit of Dr. King and them. Wait, they want a picture. I break cameras, but I don't.
Reverend Cadmus, Marcia, Mayor Jackson, and Congresswoman Fudge, I didn't recognize you with that fair photo. I didn't know who you was. Marcia, you know better than to put me in front of a microphone. Marcia, you know better than to put me in front of a microphone. No, I just want to say thank you, Marcia. I appreciate everything, and I really appreciate this honor from the National Action Network. Thank you.
Well, we just heard a lot about the wonderful work you are doing with AIDS, etc. And so the next award goes to the Healthcare Agency Advocate Award, honoring AHF, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. So I'm sure you're going to accept the award. Yeah. Okay.
There are a number of the young people that work with our program. Can you all come up and take a picture with your award? Because y'all are the ones that work for it.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all. Quick, 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 quick.
Thank you.
The next award, the individual could not be here. It's an award for humanitarian and social justice, and it's to a 97-year-old man who could not be here, Sam Miller of Tower City and that whole network of Forest City, in the spirit of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And I know we will make sure that Sam gets this. He's been a great advocate for social justice for a long time. God bless him.
Thank you.
It is my great honor, we know that the youth are our future, so having the ability to honor young people is one of the things I get the most joy out of. And this award is for Humanitarian for the Students Award, and it's presented to Tim Roberts. I'm well.
Here, Robert.
God be the glory. Truly a blessing to be here. Very quickly, if you're not about young people, which you should be because they are our future, you should be about young people. Being the head of a school, having the opportunity to speak to young people and watching their parents every day, we are in a serious fight for our young people's lives. And so I take the opportunity every day to thank God for giving me the opportunity to have a chance to change young people's lives. And so for my young people from Shaw, this world is for you to flip it upside down in a positive way and make change. And I always say this to my young people every day in school: if no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. And the reason that you have to say this to young people is because some young people go through this life without hearing those very special words. And so I also tell my young people, after taking a group of young men to Morehouse College, these young people there are doing a fantastic job, but one particular young man said something. Every time that I get a chance to say this, I'd say it to a larger group of people. He asked my young men, what do they understand poor to be? And of course, our young people said poor means no money, not having the right things to live by. But he said, write this down. He says, poor stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. And you should never take the opportunity to pass over opportunities repeatedly, because you will be poor in your mind. To my great brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, we're going to continue to move forward in the things that we do. But most of all, get involved with young people. That's all I can say to the adults. Get involved with young people, because they need to see you out here. Thank you, and God bless.
This award goes to Rufinda S. Bigham Scott, and I think she's called Rudy. And it is the Behind the Scenes Community Award. Congratulations.
Yes, I do. Can I have my team come? Because everybody's bringing their team up. I need my team right here with me with this. Come on. Well, I think coming up, I would like to say something to everyone. We're from Pizza Hut. We have 27 stores in the Cleveland area. I have 8 of my own. This is my team that's behind us. We train and develop. I believe in the youth as well. I have some that just graduated high school, wanted to go the wrong way, but they're running their own stores now. So I thank the Lord for that. We continue to reach out to the community. I'm always giving. My saying from my old uncle had, I give because I have because I give. So I have this opportunity that we're able to give. Call us, we'll do whatever we can to help the community, whatever programs or anything that you may have. And also, the mayor comes and eats a thin veggie every now and then. Thank you.
This honor goes to Mr. Don King and for all of his hard work for the Behind the Scenes Humanitarian Award. Congratulations, Mr. Don King.
I'm not Don King. First, giving honor to God, to Dr. Cavanis, my friend, my mentor, a man who's been a father to me, and to the Action Network and Marcia. I just want to say thank you. You know, I've had the unique opportunity to travel with Mr. King for the past 3 years, and we just left New York, and it's amazing to see the people, the dignitaries that just clamor to him and congratulate him and all the work that he's done. We were in Germany, and the German people couldn't speak English, but they were just saying, praise God for Mr. King, praise God for Mr. King. And as he received a call from President Merkel of Germany, and he's interacted with all of the different presidents from different countries, the one thing that I learned from him, he said, Dale, no matter what you do, don't forget the little people, don't forget where you come from. And I'm here today to tell you that I'm thankful today because God is a God of second and third chances. And it's because of that reason that I'm here to be able to stand here today to even accept this award for him. And on behalf of the Calling Post newspaper, we thank you. We thank each and every one of you for all of the things that you allow us to do for you. And we thank you for what you've allowed Mr. King to do with the Calling Post, and he's on this since 1998. Thank you, God bless you, and we appreciate you.
Make sure this get it next week's paper, Dale.
This next award goes to Miss Virginia Robinson White. She is deserving of her Behind the Scenes Humanitarian Award. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I was applauding myself coming up. I couldn't believe it. But it is really an honor for me to receive this award, especially on this particular day, the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's death. I am a strong union person. I advocate. I believe in them. And for Dr. King, on this day, in 1968, to be in Memphis, Tennessee, and to give his life there with the striking sanitation workers. The sanitation workers was on strike for better working conditions, better wages, and most important of all, dignity. I can still see that sign they held. I am a man. Thank you.
This next award is well-deserved by a lady that has given much to this community and continues to do so on a regular basis. This award is presented to Dr. Yvonne Pointer, Humanitarian for Justice. Congratulations.
I give honor to God. Oh, hold on, I come right up here. Certainly I give honor to God and to all whom honors due, Reverend Cavanis, and to my friend Mayor Frank Jackson. You know, when my daughter was raped and murdered in 1984, I felt so powerless. I met Martin Luther King when I was 12 years old. I'll never forget it. But I called Councilwoman Fannie Lewis at that time, because, Mayor, I felt like somebody needed to do something. But how do you do it with no power? So I said, well, Miss Lewis, I need you to give me a job so I can get in the community and work. And anybody that knows Fannie Lewis knows what she said. She said, it don't work like that. She said, everybody give you nothing. She said, you find the end of the line and get in it and work. So Dr. King said, anybody can have power because anybody can serve. So what did I do? I did what Miss Lewis said. I found the end of the line and I served my way into power. And I'm so thankful for my friend Al Ratner told me one time, he said, you'll know when you got power, when you pick up the phone and people answer your call. So on today I accept this award not because I'm so powerful, but for the voices of those innocent children that are in those graves without any power, any voice. Thank you.
Our next award goes to Lady Gilmore, Behind the Scenes Humanitarian Award. Congratulations.
To God be the glory. I'm accepting this award on behalf of my babies. When I load my trunk, I keep my trunk loaded because I don't know who I'm going to see walking down the street pushing a stroller that might need something. My babies asked me one day, why do you do it? Don't nobody care, but you always do it. And I can't wait to see my babies this week and tell them that this is why I do it. And I'm going to pass it on to you. Because our mother, Dr. Pointer, spoke about our babies in the grave. I love my babies above the ground. They're homeless, they're hungry. When you look and see they don't have no shoes on, pull your car over, go to the store and come back and find them. Me and my husband have clothed so many other people's children. And these children, they 20 and 30 years old, and some of them 40. But I still call them my babies.
Yeah.
Our next award goes to Justin Applewhite. It is Education and Humanitarian Award. Congratulations.
Pastor Cavanis, you're being paged. Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna stand next to you, you're gonna do it.
Yes, sir. This award is for education and humanitarian. Torianne Blair.
Torianne Blair.
The next award is to Janeda Green.
She doesn't want to say anything.
Yeah, this one you do.
I'm not doing any of them, John. You go right here. You give me the hard one, that's all that matters.
That's why I will give it to you. The next award is to Noriega.
Did we pronounce it right?
No, Noriega.
Noriega.
Noriega, I knew that.
Noriega Madison. Why didn't you do it? Thank you, sir.
It's wonderful for our youth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Evidently, a whole lot of people haven't pronounced your name right. I'll tell you this. All right. I'll say so. Yeah, come right over.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, God bless you.
The following award goes to Chardonnay Watkins.
Did we pronounce your name right? We do the best we can. All right. Want to say something more?
All right. The next award is presented to Ronnie Burnett.
Come on, give these young folks some love, man. Come on. All right, Shaw High School band, where are they? That's it? That's it? Y'all come up here and take a picture there. Shaw High School band. Director, come on. I was asking where were you? Y'all didn't have all your stuff on today. All of these are Shaw students in the band. Where's the director? Director, come on in here. They march with us every year. Come on. Sit right in there. You don't either. All right, let's. Wait a minute, get me, man. Okay, you got me? All right, you should too. All right, Shaw band.
Good evening. On behalf of our superintendent, Dr. Myrna Lloyd Corley, we humbly accept these awards. I had the pleasure of dealing with these students on a daily basis. They're all going off to college this year, and 2 are going into the armed forces. So again, thank you, Reverend Cabinet. Thank you, Marcia McCoy. Again, these students are on their spring break this year, so that's why the band wasn't there today. Thank you.
All right, Damon Williams, please come forward. Huh? Damon. D-A-Y-M-O-N, Damon. Hey, come on up here, bro. Damon. All right, my brother. Thank you. You want to say something? Yeah, bro.
I would like to thank the NAM for this opportunity for giving me this award, and thank all the other honorees. And congratulate all of them.
Well, I'm going to not be too modest, but that's my grandson.
That's your grandson?
Yes. You may have seen him on the Stouffer's commercial with Coach Ginn. Congratulations. Damon got a full ride to Alabama State.
And you wonder why we honor these honorees. It's because they're so deserving. And a lot of times we do things behind the scenes and we're not recognized for the things we do. Everyone is deserving of this award. We were questioned about a few of them, but they don't know a lot of things. God, what is it? Man looks at the outward appearance and God looks at the what? All right. This concludes our program, although we had a more, wait a minute, no it doesn't. Tina Farmer, where are you? Where's Tina?
Tina.
Oh, come on, Tina. We can't do this without you. Where's our musician? Whoa, wait.
And the preacher's over here in the corner.
Where is she?
The preacher's over here in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord. First, Dr. Cavanis and Marcia, I'd just like to thank you for being a part of this historical event, and I'm just excited to be here today. Dr. Martin Luther King said once, darkness can't drive darkness out, only the light. Hatred can't drive hatred out, only love. God gave Dr. King a light, and he illuminated this country with his love, peace, his stand for justice, his stand for equality. And God gave each and every one of you a light to shine bright. I don't know about you, but everywhere I go, I'm going to let my light shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Hey, hey, this little